right here in the stomach, okay? It was right there in the stomach, and at the same time, though, there was an army doctor that was nearby that was stationed there. His name was Dr. William Beaumont. He ended up becoming super famous because of his discoveries of what went on in the stomach. But if I told you the story, how he got those discoveries, you might think of Dr. William Beaumont in a different light, okay? So Dr. William Beaumont was there while this young man had gotten shot, and Dr. William Beaumont, as a doctor, he went ahead and ran to his aid, and the first thing he noticed was, okay, I'm going to go ahead and treat him for his wound. But at the same time, though, he noticed that the bullet had made a little opening in his stomach. And he thought, not a lot of digestive research has been done today. I'm going to look into the stomach, and I'm hearing that it was acidic in that stomach. So one of the first things that he did, besides suturing him up, he stuck his finger in the middle of the hole of that stomach, and he tasted it. And he's noticed, wow, it really is acidic, because Alexis St. Martin's breakfast started to spill out. And so he tried it and he goes, wow, it is acidic. And so he thought, I could be famous. What I'm going to do, he offered this to Alexis St. Martin. Alexis St. Martin, by the way, did not have an education because he was poor. He didn't have an education. He didn't understand whatever he was signing or what he was doing. But Dr. Beaumont told him, I have a deal for you. I'm going to allow for you to heal, and in return, for room and board, I want you to be my experimental subject. And this wasn't some kind of luxury kind of arrangement that was here. He said, I'm going to offer you room and board, but also you're going to be my indentured servant. So while I'm conducting these experiments on you, I want you to chop wood, clean everything, clear out all the brush, and do all the stuff at home, okay, that you would do as a servant. And you know what these experiments were like? For the next about 10 years, while Alexis St. Martin lived in his house, he would perform these experiments on this little window into the stomach. One of the things he would do, he would take pieces of meat and string them up on a little thread, and he would stuff them in the inside of that hole into the stomach, let it sit in there, of course no anesthesia. Stuff it in there, let it sit there for a week, and then pull out that string full of meat again to see if, did any of it digest? And this is how he became famous. Alexis St. Martin, by the way, you might be wondering, how did he put up with this? He tried to run away several times. But Dr. Beaumont was always telling him and finding him and saying, like, well, this is how you can get room and board. So he was always forced to come back. Until finally, he ran away and he never came back. Okay? Dr. William Beaumont ended up dying early because he slipped on an icy step and died. On black ice. Alexis St. Martin lived to about the age of 82 years old with his family. Okay? And after he had died, the family kept Alexis St. Martin's body for a while in their possession. Now, it sounds disturbing, but what they didn't want to happen was that somebody was going to rob his grave and steal his body and conduct more experiments on him after death. So they hid his body for a while until he decomposed just enough so nobody could perform any more stomach experiments on him to die. And that's the story of Alexis St. Martin. Okay? But who got all the fame? Dr. Beaumont. It's kind of sad. It is. So let's not forget Alexis St. Martin and his contribution to what the stomach did, okay, and understanding what the stomach did. So now finally we are going into the small intestine. Small intestine. What do we want to get from all of this at the end of the day? So when we talk about our macromolecule, we call it a polymer. And it's made up of these repeating building blocks called monomers. What is the monomer that we want to get from this group? First off, what does this group represent? Protein. These are your proteins. What do we want to get from that our cells can use? Well, we need amino acids, right? Okay. What is all of this? These are your fats. What do we want to get from our fats? Fatty acids. Fatty acids. And what are called monoglycerides. Monoglyceride. Let me spell that out for you. monoglyceride and fatty acids. The last one over here, what is this group? These are your carbohydrates. What do we want to get from here? Mainly. We want glucose. We also can get, from the breakdown of those starches, we can get fructose. And we get one more thing from it. Close. Sucrose is still not simple enough. Sucrose is actually these two together. So I'm going to list here what's called galactose. These are the simplest sugars there are. And everything that we think of like lactose, sucrose, those are combinations of these three. Sucrose, your table sugar, happens to be a combination of glucose and fructose together. Lactose, which is your milk sugar, what that is, that's glucose and galactose. If someone is lactose intolerant, they cannot break down the lactose into the glucose and galactose that we actually need. So more on that in a little bit, but that's going to be what's going to what we need to break down finally into our small intestine. All of this digestion should not be occurring in the large intestine. This should all mostly finish in the small intestine. So here we are with the small intestine. This is the longest portion of the alimentary canal. You don't need to know exactly how long, but it's actually several feet if you were to stretch out the intestine. Most digestion and absorption occurs here, especially in the middle part, which is the jejunum. And so the regions that are here, this is more for your lab. This is what you would have covered. And we can't forget now the contributions of our liver, gallbladder, and pancreas either. This one also is something I want you to go and review for the lab work. But let's talk about what epithelium is there. We have to secrete a lot and we have to absorb a lot. So what is our epithelium here? We went from stratified squamous for protection, then we moved into simple columnar. What is the epithelium that we're going to continue into here? Still simple columnar. We're still going to have simple columnar. Anytime you have heavy absorption and heavy secretion, you should be thinking of simple columnar as the most ideal type of epithelium for that. So simple columnar. That small intestine, microscopically, what I also want you to identify are these finger-like projections. These finger-like projections are called what? Villi. Villi, okay? And you've got, in that villi, this is our area of lamina propria. There's a lot of structures that are found in there. This you can see in the models in lab. And the microvilli versus the villi. The villi is the whole structure. That villus has simple columnar epithelium kind of on the edge right here. If you took a single simple columnar epithelial cell, just one, you're going to notice on the apical side, they have a smaller version called microvilli. It looks a lot like cilia, but it's not cilia. The reason why we have to have the villi and the microvilli is because we need to have a very high surface area for absorption. So the more surface area we have, the better we can absorb our nutrients. This is a key thing. I want you to circle that. The microvilli of the small intestine contain what are called brush border enzymes. These are enzymes that are permanently tethered to those cells. Permanently tethered to that microvilli. Everyone got that? I want you to go back to your list. We are going to need brush border enzymes for carbs. We're going to need brush border enzymes for proteins. And we're going to need brush border enzymes for fats. The brush border enzymes should be the last ones in your discussion, because these are the ones that finally bring us down to our monomers. We need them to be as small as possible so that we're ready to absorb right then and there. Okay, so make sure brush border enzymes are underneath. They're gonna have each a different name, and so just watch out for it as we go through our small intestine. Okay, now our chyme has entered the small intestine. We have come from the stomach, and now it's time to finish digestion. We're gonna talk about the contributions of this first. So first, you've got this enteroendocrine glands and these cells still in the small intestine. So you have enteroendocrine cells in the stomach, and you also have some in the small intestine. And what these enteroendocrine cells are going to do is that they are going to release hormones to signal these guys. You don't need to know what the name is of that hormone. You don't. But they do need to signal the gallbladder and the pancreas. First, let's use that hormone to stimulate the blank to release pancreatic juice into the main pancreatic duct. Which one do you think I'm talking about here? The pancreas. At the same time, that hormone is also going to signal the blank to release bile into what's called the common bile duct. So who's this? That's the gallbladder. If your gallbladder has been removed, your liver has to do it. Your liver makes bile. Your gallbladder does not make bile. All it does is store the bile. But assuming you have an intact gallbladder, okay, then that hormone is going to stimulate the gallbladder to release bile into the common bile duct. All right. Both of these ducts, main pancreatic duct and the common bile duct, are all going to join together in this little sphincter called the sphincter of Oddi, also known as the hepatopancreatic ampulla and sphincter. I will take either one. And that's this little opening. And what is the little section called of the small intestine? What's the first part of the small intestine called? The duodenum. Very good. Okay. So that's what these arrows are representing. These cells have to secrete a hormone to signal that and to signal this. And in response to that hormone, this will release bile and this will release pancreatic juice. Let's talk about pancreas, and we'll talk about that bile. So, anatomically, you have a head, a body, and a tail. We've got exocrine and endocrine functions that are in here, right? If I told you 90% versus 10%, okay, the 10% that is endocrine, what is the name of the little clusters of cells that are found in the pancreas that are for the endocrine function? They're like little islands in an ocean of digestive exocrine. What are they called? Pancreatic islets. That's the 10%. That's the 10%. We're going to move away from that 10%. We're going to go into the 90%. That's the dark pink that was surrounding all of that histology. Okay, so focus on the exocrine function. What exactly is in that pancreatic juice that we were talking about here? We have an enzyme for all three of those. And also we've got some bicarbonate because all the stuff that's coming from the stomach is pretty acidic. And a lot of these enzymes, they don't work very well in an acidic environment. So we actually need to neutralize them. So that's why we've got some bicarbonate. The cells in the pancreas that actually make those pancreatic enzymes, those are called the acinar cells. And they're going to digest our 3 macromolecules. The duct cells, also found in that exocrine group, are the ones that are going to secrete that bicarbonate to neutralize that acidic chyme. But our main focus for our discussion post are the pancreatic enzymes. The last thing in here, let's see, liver, we've got here. I think we can cover this. Okay. So once I talk about those pancreatic enzymes, I will give them names for you to add to your group. But let's talk about liver. And the liver is also what is going to be signaled to release something. Specifically, the gallbladder is going to do it. So we'll talk a little bit about bile. First off, the hepatocyte is the liver cell. So every time we say hepatic anything, it's liver related. And the liver, its the main digestive function is to produce something called bile. And that one is going to emulsify fats. Emulsify fats. Okay, so under which column should bile be going under? Fats. So what do we have so far? This is what your list should look like. What is under the carbs list? We start with salivary amylase. Where is this secreted?
Mouth.
Esophagus, stomach, where? Where?
Mouth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We're going to pause there. Proteins. What should you have under here? I heard the enzyme.
Pepsin.
Mm-hmm. And where is this?
Stomach.
Where are we for this one?
Stomach.
The stomach. This one we actually have a name of the cell that does it. What's the name of the cell that actually releases this?
Cheese cells.
Mm-hmm. By Chi cells. Okay, cool. Okay. What do we have for fats so far? What's the first one? The one with the tongue. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put under tongue because it's not actually secreted by the tongue. It's just the gland is under the tongue. So you could include that with your discussion of the mouth. That's okay too. Okay, and then what's the other one so far? Gastric lipase. And where was that found? Mm-hmm. By who? Also the chief cells. Also, we have the brush border enzymes, which I'm going to kind of leave off a little bit now because, remember, that's the one that's the very last one on the list. So what has to be in the middle? Okay, we got to put bile here next, okay? Bile has to be here. And rather than kind of cramming it into 1 minute, I'm going to show you where the rest of the information is going to be. All right? We're going to go forward. Okay. Here you go. Okay? These are your last brush border enzymes. So at the end, so pancreatic juice before we get into the brush border enzymes. For that pancreatic juice, you're going to have a pancreatic amylase, you're going to have, okay, several peptidases for this one, so I'm not going to go over the specific names. But just know that in that pancreatic juice, you are also digesting proteins. There's a lot of them, and I'm not going to go over them, okay? This one for your fats, we have something called pancreatic lipase. Then you can put your brush border enzymes. Maltase, sucrase, and lactase, that should be underneath here, okay? So brush border. Maltase, sucrase, and lactase should be underneath the carbohydrate one, underneath the carbohydrate column. This will break down maltose. Maltose is glucose and glucose. Sucrase will break down, what do you think? What is the sugar that one breaks down? Sucrase breaks down? What's it sound like? Sucrose, that's your table sugar. Lactase will break down, what is the sugar for milk? Lactose. Okay, these are your brush border enzymes, the last one in your discussion if you were going to be doing carbs. For proteins, you have peptidases as your brush border enzyme. For fats, you have what's called intestinal lipase for your brush border enzyme. And that is how we finish digestion in the small intestine, okay? Past this, when we go to the large intestine, we shouldn't be talking any more about nutrient breakdown. It should already be absorbed by the time we get to the large intestine, that's why. So I just wanna kind of leave you with this ahead of Thursday. Thursday though, we're going to see how far we can get with this one. It's just the large intestine and the rectum and anal canal. So once we finish this on Thursday, then we are going to cover urinary. So we're going fast, I know that. But take really good notes. Take really good notes. So some of the questions that I've been getting are, how do I study best for this? What are the study tips? Okay? Join a study group. It's not too late to join a study group. Right? You may think it's too late. Okay? Check out the Kahoots that Colton's been